Welcome to the Flora podcast, a place where we help you create a life you're excited about. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Flora, and today we are doing a 2024 vision workshop. I'm so excited about this. If you're new to my channel and my podcast, welcome. I'm Flora Sage. For over 25 years, I've been helping people like you align into a life or a business that you are wildly obsessed with by helping you clear the 9 types of clutter keeping you from a life that you love. What are those 9 types of clutter? They are mental, spiritual, emotional, digital, financial, daily, body, process, and environmental clutter. And yes, like I said, today we are doing a 2024 workshop. So if you are listening to this someplace where you cannot participate as far as bringing your journal out and writing these answers down, that's okay. Go ahead and listen to it, do it in your mind, and then come back to this when you are in a place to hit pause and to write these things down. But if you are in a place where you can grab your journal, grab a beverage, and let's get started. The first item we are going to look at for your 2024 vision is to write down any graduations, births, weddings, vacations, birthdays, milestones, anything that is upcoming this next year that needs to be noted. The reason why we're doing this is because often these big days can impact the phase of life that you are in. Let's just say that you have a graduation coming up and then your child leaves the nest, then you become an empty nester. So this is something to make note of before we even get into the nitty-gritty of creating your vision for this next year. So pause this recording and this episode, write those things down, and then come back. All right, number 2 is figuring out what phase of life you're in this next year. As you know from previous episodes, the phase of life that you're in drastically impacts how you can show up every single day in your goals, for your priorities, all the things. If you're an empty nester, if you're raising babies, if you are a new parent, if you are a new homeowner, if you're starting a new job or new career, if you're moving across the planet or across the country, that is going to impact and also dictate what phase of life that you're in. Also, if you have any surgeries that are coming up, any procedures that you're going to need to convalesce for a week, a month, 6 months, whatever it is, depending on the surgery or procedure, make sure that you note that because that's part of your phase. If you've listened to the other episodes where I talk about what phase of life you're in and how to identify it, you know that when you have some type of phase like that, like a surgery or something like that, that trumps everything else. That is your main focus for that time frame. Pause this recording and write down what your primary phase of life will be this next year. And then if you also want to write down a secondary or tertiary phase, you can do that as well. For example, if you're building a new business and you have teenagers, your main priority is the teenagers, and then your secondary phase is building that business. If you are an empty nester and are downsizing and moving across the country, your primary phase of life is transition. Yes, you are an empty nester, but you're in that transition space. Pause this recording, figure out what your phase of life is for this next year, and then come back. Okay. Number 3, now that you know the upcoming events and the phase of life that you're in, now let's look at what your priorities should be for this phase of your life. Typically, I recommend having 3 or 4 priorities, and those priorities typically coincide with the goals that you have for this year. If one of your priorities is to reduce your waist size by 4 inches, one of your goals then might be to follow an eating plan or hire a nutritionist to work with. If one of your priorities is to downsize your home, then one of your goals might be to hire someone that can help you to declutter your physical possessions. If one of your priorities is to build your business in a very sustainable way, one of your goals might be to find an expert and a coach that specialize in the same niche that you do, hire them, and have them help you to create what you're trying to create in your business. Pause this and come back when you're finished. All right, moving on to number 4. What clutter might get in the way of the goals that you have just written down? Again, I'm going to share with you the 9 types of clutter. Mental clutter, spiritual clutter, emotional clutter, digital clutter, financial clutter, daily clutter, body clutter, process clutter, and environmental clutter. Now look at each one of your priorities and each one of your goals and ask yourself, which one of these types of clutter, or it could be multiple types of clutter, that may get in the way of me achieving this goal or this priority in my life this next year. And I want you to pause this recording and be brutally honest with yourself about what you know about yourself and the clutter that you have. What clutter might get in the way, and identify that clutter now. All right, so moving on to number 5 in our 2024 vision plan for this year. What key actions or milestones do you need to meet in order to achieve these goals? What key actions or milestones do you need to meet to achieve the goals that you have just written down? Be really honest with yourself about each of these milestones. So let's just say, I'll give you an example about writing a book. So, and you want to write the book within the entire year. So by quarter number 1, you have the first manuscript completed and in the hands of your editor. By second quarter, having all of the edits and the rewrites completed. The third quarter, having the beta testers read the book, create the edits based off of those beta testers. And then the fourth quarter, you can do the formatting, the graphics, all the things so that you can launch the book then in first quarter of next year. Another example is, let's just say that you're planning on downsizing this year and moving across the country into a smaller space. So the first thing is to figure out what size you're moving to, from what square footage to what square footage, and then hire an expert that can come help you to declutter and downsize your current possessions so that it will fit in that new space. So again, figure out what those key actions are. Another example is, let's just say that you want to lose 20 pounds by the end of the year. So you could, let's just say in the first quarter, ask yourself, what do I know about my body? What works? What doesn't work? And pick one thing that you know works for weight loss and health, and do that one thing for 3 months. After that 3 months, notice where you're at. And often when you stick with something 3 months, you'll be able to tell if you feel better, if you're sleeping better, if your clothes fit better, if you've dropped any weight, if you've gained any muscle. And really allow yourself to implement these things one at a time, because if you implement a bunch of things at a time, you may not be able to pinpoint exactly what's working and what's not working. So when you implement one thing, you'll be able to tell if this is working or if it's not working. And let's just say that by the end of the first 3 months, you've lost 10 pounds. Keep doing it. Maybe you only need to make that one change in order to lose that 20 pounds by the end of the year. So figure out what key actions or milestones that you want to meet in order to achieve these goals. Pause this recording and then come back. All right, moving on to number 6. Now that you know the upcoming events for this next year, the phase of life that you're in, the priorities that you have and the goals that you want to achieve. You've looked at and identified the clutter that might get in the way of your ability to achieve these goals. And you've also identified the key actions and milestones that you need to meet to achieve these goals. Now I want you to ask yourself, what is a theme or a word or a mantra for me to use this year to really keep me focused on achieving these goals and holding these priorities true? Once you get your theme or word for the year or mantra that you feel will keep you focused on what you've set out to achieve, go ahead and restart this episode. All right, number 7. Who is your counsel? This is one of the most important things for this year. Who do you keep counsel? Who do you seek guidance from or advice from? How are you going to keep and stay accountable for your plan? So you've just spent time writing a plan, creating this vision for your life for this next year, identifying all these things. Who's going to hold you accountable? Now, you right now might say, I'm going to keep myself accountable. I'm not doubting you. However, I've been coaching people for over 25 years, and I know that when people have other people to hold them accountable, they are over 90% more likely to achieve what they set out to achieve. Only 10%, actually less than 10% of the population will achieve what they set out to on their own. And that's less than 1% of the population. That 10% is actually less than 1% of the population who actually writes down their goals. Most people never write down a goal, ever. They never write down a goal. And so the fact that you have just written down goals for this next year sets you apart over 90% of the population. That's huge. Huge. Out of that 10% of the population that writes down their goals, which is you, 1% can achieve them on their own. The other 90% achieve the goals that they've set out to achieve because they have people on their side. They have people in their corner that will hold them accountable and keep them in check. Pause this recording and make a list of the people that you keep counsel with. Again, these are people that you seek advice from. These are people that you seek guidance from or knowledge or information. This could be your coach. This could be a trusted advisor. But who is going to keep you accountable? Pause this and come back. All right, congratulations. You have just completed your 2024 vision. If you could not think of someone as a trusted advisor or coach or mentor or someone to help keep you accountable, I do have a few spots open for private one-on-one coaching and mentorship. Click the link in the show notes to apply. We'll jump on a call. We'll talk. We'll see if we're a good fit. Let's make 2024 your best year yet. I hope this serves you today, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. All links mentioned are in today's show notes.